Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise today to offer my amendment that utilizes the Holman Rule to reduce the salary of UN Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield to $1. Ms. Thomas-Greenfield has been entrusted with representing the United States on the world stage and has done a terrible job. She made the decision to allow the U.S. to rejoin the anti-Semitic United Nations Human Rights Council, which routinely ignores some of the world's most worst atrocities and grants membership to countries with egregious human rights violations, giving countries like China, Russia, Cuba, Venezuela, Pakistan, and Somalia an international platform to speak on human rights. Rather than focusing on China's systematic oppression of millions of Uyghur Muslims or the inhumane treatment of women and ethnic religious minorities across the Middle East, this council disproportionately targets the state of Israel. She was also involved in the decision to resume funding the UN Population Fund account, which supports coercive abortion and involuntary sterilization. During her Senate confirmation, Ms. Thomas-Greenfield expressed support for taxpayer-funded abortions in foreign countries. In 2021, Ms. Thomas-Greenfield was quoted saying, quote, "White supremacy is woven into America's founding documents and principles," end quote. In the same speech, she went on to say, quote, "We have to acknowledge that we are an imperfect union and have been since the beginning," end quote. Let's give this very important job to someone who loves America and doesn't hate the values that our founders ingrained into the strongest country in the world. I urge my colleagues to support my amendment and hold Ms. Thomas-Greenfield accountable for her poor representation of America on the world stage. Mr. Chair, I reserve.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentlewoman from California.
I rise in strong opposition to this amendment.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, really, it's quite, as I said earlier, it's quite despicable to target dedicated public servants and threaten their livelihoods. Public servants doing their jobs and carrying out the policies of this administration or any administration, they deserve to be commended, not demonized. Our government is dependent on being able to attract the best talent to bring their skills to public service, especially when, in most cases, they could earn much more in the private sector. Who is going to be willing to do that if their names can be dragged through the political mud? Ambassador Thomas-Greenfield retired as one of our most distinguished Foreign Service officers after 35 years of service to this country. She returned from retirement in order to take on her current role as United Nations Ambassador, and she represents the United States admirably each and every single day. This is how we solve our policy differences. We should not make it personal and about people doing their job. I have worked with and have known Ambassador Thomas-Greenfield, and all of the unbelievable bashing of who she is and her credentials and what she has provided for this country is unacceptable, and it's disgusting. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment.
Does the
I
gentlewoman
reserve the balance of my time. I reserve.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentlewoman from Colorado is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I reserve.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Once again, I hope that the gentlelady and others really understand that public service is public service. This is not a private corporation. This is our federal government. This is who we are as a country, and bringing forth our efforts to achieve global peace and security in the world, and to continue to try to demonize our public servants is something that hopefully our young people are totally ignoring, because we want them to come on board as Foreign Service ambassadors on behalf of this country. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentlewoman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I once again urge my colleagues to support this amendment to hold Ms. Thomas-Greenfield accountable. This is an unelected rogue bureaucrat, not a public servant. This is someone who has not taken her role seriously. Being involved in the decisions to resume funding the UN Population Fund account, which supports these coercive abortion and involuntary sterilization. This is absolutely grotesque to me. There's many other reasons that I've listed here that we should be utilizing this Holman Rule to hold this unelected rogue bureaucrat accountable, and I urge adoption of my amendment. Mr. Chair, I yield.
Gentlelady yields. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Colorado.